we're not here to slam anyone. That's definitely not what's happening. But you are right. There is a need for certain things, and where that money comes from to implement that, I'm not sure. But at the same time, it would be really cool to see some little changes happen.
Yeah, 100%. And don't get me wrong, I'm the first one that I won't put my hand up to have the job. So, and I know I'll make twice as many mistakes that night than he does up there. So while I'm riding, I'll make 10 mistakes, 15 mistakes, whatever. I'll wear them, but I'm not willing to put myself in that seat, so I can't bag that person as such. But let's try and make their job a bit easier, probably more attractive, because as it stands, like, it's a thankless job. For sure.
I think with the technology side of things, and any ideas would just be a case of putting more tools in their toolbox to be able to make a night more safe and more fair.
End of the day, fair go, and everyone's happy.
Over your career, you've definitely, seen things come and go in regards to technology and people trying stuff. What are some of the weird ideas people have tried in regards to motorbike setups, or things that haven't worked, but you think, man, that was kind of there?
I was always a big believer, actually. Got things with the snowmobile motors was always going to be the big thing, like the 1000cc, you get 1 million horsepower out of them. I think a couple of lads tried the snowmobile or jet ski on the Gold Coast there many years ago. I think with Steve Taylor and those guys. But I don't know where it is now, but it didn't really take off. And each year when a new bike comes out, the first thing I do anyway is I'll look at the specs of it, and it's dry, its weight, its size, and all the rest of it, and what it's putting out, and all the rest of it. Well, that'd be a good motor for speedway, I wouldn't. But chassis wise, yeah, there was a few changes, like Clevey sort of day. He made a few offsetting wheels quite a bit, and they changed the rules because it wasn't real safe, so the wheels had to track together and all the rest of it, because they'd turn left out the start and take out the bloke next year. But there was a lot of innovation, I suppose. But at the end of the day, when Russell Mitchell made what we're basically riding now, the initial side of it, he just had a mothership, which is, they're going back to it a bit now, with offsetting the head stem and all the rest of it. But basically the rest of it's all the same. So what you'll find is that all these ideas, and Clarkey, who was a great man, very smart man, he's had eliminated frames that I used to ride for many years. He was always an ideas man, but whether it be just the adjustment so you could move everything so it was in a bit better spot for you. At the end of the day, the wheel turns and you're basically back to where it was standard, Yeah, we try and reinvent the wheel sort of thing, but we always seem to come back to a pretty common spot.
I've seen some things in my time that seem kind of harebrained in a way, but at the same time, you got to try some stuff, otherwise you'll never know.
Yeah, well, Paul Pinfold is a classic example. He had the sprint car wing on the top, and it looked different, but when you saw it with all the gear off of it, he was a clever man, like workmanship in it and the thought process. You could see where it all was, but obviously they made rules in a rule book for a reason, and he obviously changed a fair few of them to stop it being like a sprint car, like big wide wheels and all the rest of it. We got limited to wheel size and that, so we didn't get stuck in the just ride around on rails sort of thing, which was happening a bit with the motards and that, motard tyres and that they were running in New Zealand.
You've got a injected Suzuki, I think. And injection is a topic I covered with Warren Monson. He explained a lot to me, and I can definitely see why. But why yourself have you gone that route with that bike, and what have you found so far?
I found it's expensive so far. No, it's something I want to try. Like Russell's been playing with it for a fair while, and I think there's reasons why it hasn't been working. Got myself a system that's fully adjustable, flexible input and output wise. I can tell it what I want it to do to try and tailor it so I can slow it down a bit and make it a bit more friendly for the dirt without saying too much. But yeah, it's going to be a work in progress for sure.
And is that one of those things you've just wanted to do it for such a long time, or you sort of, how everyone has their different take on things? Is it one of those things where you think, you know what, I've got my input that might be able to tailor it to my needs?
Sort of part of what I do work-wise and that as well, on that side of things. So sort of gave me a bit more of an understanding of what we all sort of know what we need out there, but it's a matter of trying to get the bike to agree with you. Sooner or later, like the old faithful, the old Yamahas, the old FZRs, like they're a great thing. They're the best recipe in the world for dirt. You know, it's like they were thinking of dirt when they made that bike. You know, just the torque you get out of them, the crank momentum, all the rest of it. They're very usable on the dirt. Nowadays, everything's doing. The happy place is 3,000 to 5,000 RPM higher than what it was back then. So for them to rev that hard, they're a lot lighter engine. So a lot less crank momentum, so when you slow them down and get them out in their happy spot, that's when they want a wheel stand and they act more like a lay-down solo. Obviously with the injection, that injection is a lot more precise and a lot more responsive, and that's the trouble we have with dirt. Tracks are getting less and less dirt on them, and so you're just going to spin them up and go over the top and not get your value for what it's trying to do if you're on the bitumen, you know. And most of the time you're using smarts of the manufacturer's motor, you know, like whether it be electronics or your traction control side of things, or the Suzuki's got variable valve timing, but it's mechanical on this, you know. There's a lot of little things that they'll do, but you need all those sensors in place that you use on a road bike to make it happy. And we can't do that because our wheel speeds, front one's almost stopped, back one's doing stupid speed. It'll confuse it too much. So you need somebody who can talk to it and tell it, trick it, tell it what you want it to do and what it should be doing and how you want it to happen, you know.
You did touch on the fact that nowadays tracks are a lot slicker. Why do you think that is, and what was it like riding with the way heavier tracks?
I've always liked the dirt, so I think initially it was touched on before, the laydowns, the solos. Like as soon as they went to a laydown, they revved a lot quicker. They had a lighter flyweight on the crank. So that's why you see with the GPs even, you know, like those boys we saw. Did you watch the GP the other night when Freddie Lindgren got cleaned up? It was sickening, eh? But that was the same deal. He just picked up a water drive on the way out the corner on a reasonably slick track, so he just slowed that wheel down enough for it to drive him, and it just shoots you straight in the fence. Obviously, if you're on a bike track which caters for solos and sidecars, you're going to have a lot less dirt than once upon a time. You know, the solo boys could ride through back in the old days. You know, and I think there's less. We used to. Murray Bridge is one of my favourite tracks, and there's the fellow. He was a curator, I suppose, keeper of the track, the facilities, the whole bit. Moss Buchanan. He could tailor a track to suit. You know what I mean? Like if it was a sidecar night, he'd make a sidecar track. Solo night, right for them. Sprint cars are on. He'd have it ripped and deep and sticking together. The sprinters would be doing wheel stands around there. It's a matter of the people that have been along enough, knowing the dirt, knowing the recipe they need to make for good racing that night. But obviously, Dave Parker's gone now. He started late on with Gilman, but he was learning. He knew his dirt at the end of the day. You know, just got to get in their head a bit. But a lot of hard bases now, and not much fluff on top. You know, so you do what you do with.
In speedway sidecars, there hasn't really been a tyre that's suited a sidecar for the rear. Now, do you want to explain to people that don't really, get in the nitty gritty side of things. They're more of a spectator. What tyres do we run and why?
Yeah, we run they're Czechoslovakian tyre Midas. They're actually made for a speedway solo. You can get a three groove or a 5 cut, depending on what. I haven't found much difference between the two of them. You know, some say they're a bit softer. And basically, we're putting an awful lot of horsepower through a tyre that's probably not designed to have it put through. In the earlier days, Pirelli used to make what they called an MT38. It was a really good speedway tyre. It was a speedway rear, and but they've stopped making them, and they were like you could run them down to nothing. You know, you get your hacksaw out and you sharpen the edge up, and away you go again next week. You know, whereas you'd run that same tyre for a couple of meetings, whereas now we're using it for 2 minutes. You know, swap it, do a heat, swap it, put it in the spares pile, which you never get to because generally you always need a reasonable edge on. You know.
When we're talking about different power levels and stuff like that, I think with a solo, I don't know exact figures, but I can't imagine they'd be anything over sort of 50 or thereabouts. But with a speedway sidecar, it's definitely over 160 most of the time.
I think I always said if you had a GoPro under your seat looking at your back tyre, you probably would never hop on it. The faces that tyre would pull and the shapes would just be scary, you know. Or how far it'd grow and what it's doing through a corner when you've got that side load on it as well. You'll get a still photo and that's sent in. You like that's what I'm generally looking at. If there's a picture or something, you're looking at what your tyre pressures were doing and try and remember what that track was like that night. And you see the stretch marks in your rear tyre, you go, "Oh, that was working," you know. But you imagine what it was doing underneath that seat, you know. Not in a still photo, it'd be quite scary, I think.
With the sidecars over the years too, they have changed a lot in the actual aerodynamics, I suppose you'd call them, or even just the fairings in general. But they used to have a very, very pointy edge to the big chair wheel wing, and now they're kind of a lot more rounder and sleek. But what do they actually do besides just covering up wheels and stuff on the bike?
Well, your nose, if you get the angle of that right, that's quite good because you can sort of just get your head in the right spot, and the dirt should actually just miss your goggles. You know, like if you've got that set where you're normally in your racing position, it's quite easy to just sort of hide behind it, and it'll just flick over your head. Your seats obviously haven't changed too much because they're obviously a bit bigger when you get them. You cut them to suit, so you can change your height a bit with them and move them back and forward if you've got longer legs or shorter legs, you know. Just in doing that, obviously you're moving the passenger and the rider in position with over the back of the rear axle. The more you move your seat, you can change how your whole bike handles too, just fitting a seat badly, you know. So, and like you said, with the sharp edges on your chair, on the wing, that's more been a safety thing, just to round things off and not have any uprights. No, most of them are rolled down rather than up, you know.
We're talking about racecraft before, and you know how to ride fast and safe and things like that. It's always really interesting to me to watch a race when there's heaps of passing and it's kind of nice, but when the barging and the T-boning and stuff starts happening, you know, when it's maybe once in a race because the guy's just way too hot and used you as a brake and, you know, comes up, sorry, mate. But when it happens more frequently, I think it's such a dangerous sport already. I think that sort of stuff just can't be tolerated, you know.
Gets back to what we're saying with controlling bodies and all the rest of it. I think, you know, like you do the crime, you pay the time, you know. Like if you're seen to be, it's too easy to just smacks on the wrist, you know, like that. That's all seems to happen, you know. Like seen some real bad ones and big ones. Hey, it was a bit harsh, you know. Like if someone's a repeat offender, well, maybe it shouldn't just be harsh. It should be like, you have a little holiday, mate, you know, like. And I think that would sharpen up the next lot, you know, like. And like we get back to the juniors, you know, like they see that and realise, hey, I'm racing these guys next year. That's how you got to go about it, like, because it's like they do with the AFL and all the rest of it, like what they do at the big leagues filters down to the juniors and the umpires and all the rest of it. And so, yeah, we've got to be careful what sort of precedents we set.
How do you go about controlling your nerves or just setting yourself in the right frame of mind to attack your first heat?
I've never been one for the back slap and pump yourself up sort of thing. Like I'll go out the night before. Like I'll set myself a curfew. I won't say what time it is, but I'll still be out for a few sherbets and have a good time and just do what I normally do. Like say it's an Aussies or something. I'd go play golf or go-karting or something. If all your stuff's right, like it's going in. Generally, you're in a different state or a different environment than you are at home. So go and enjoy what that place has got. Like because as soon as you drive in the gate, that butterfly kicks in and the job's on. So.
Now, in your career, do you have any superstitions or anything you might not have thought of the superstition, but have you had like say, for example, a pair of gloves like Warren Monson's had the exact same gloves his entire career, rehashed and stitched so they're still good because he just can't get comfortable otherwise. Anything like that for you, Bots?
Not anymore. I used to have the red jocks because they were lucky. But once they were reviving me that third time and I was in the coma, I thought red jocks probably aren't that lucky. So I just wear whatever I got on that morning. Maybe they were lucky. Maybe they weren't.
You don't strike me as the kind of guy that, lets a lot get to you. You sort of, righto, we'll keep getting on with it. Is that sort of a good read on you?
No, it's fair comment, I suppose, yeah. But you're gonna get stuff thrown at you all the time, aren't you? Whether it's racing, life, whatever. So it's how you back up, I suppose. So yeah, what Chris always says to me, I said, mate, there's 3 ways of doing things. There's the hard way, the easy way, and the Bottrell way. And generally it's harder than the hard way. But yeah. So you wouldn't change any of it actually.
Now, a couple of things that come to mind when I think about you and how you sort of attack life in general. I think respect and loyalty is a big thing, and making up your own mind about your own scenarios with people. But that's something I've sort of taken away from you in the short time we've known each other. But, they're important things to carry on to anyone in life, let alone, like I said, the short time we've known each other.
It's always been exciting getting back to the bigger meetings and that because you're seeing your family. So, and that's back to that loyalty thing, like your Darrens, there's a crew that we've been doing it for a long time. And it's like, we don't need to say a word, just look over and there was always a thing, right? You'd never hang anyone out to dry week to week, like if someone was trying to go around outside yet and I was in the room, you'd give them a pass, it was always a leave pass. There was that one day of the year that we all knew the gloves were off, and that was Aussie title night. But it was like, yep, don't hang yourself out to dry, mate, because tonight we're going to take that spot, which is what you need. We all need to go in the same car we came in, And there's far too much. The gloves are off week in, week out over. We'll get more money per point when I started than we are now, And I think my bike cost me. I think I raced that year with a $1,200 engine and cost me an oil change. That was about all we did with it that year, like that was, and we were getting like B grade $25 a point, And I think one meeting there we rode. Actually, I was talking to Glenn about it the other day. Glenn O'Brien, we rode the Coca-Cola champion of champions or something. And Duncan Wilson in Broken Hill and Mildura Specky or something on the Sunday night. So we did Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I didn't win one. I was on the podium. I think I was second, third or something of the three. I'm driving home with Maves, my passenger at the time. And, why don't we do this all the time, mate? You know, like, we're $4.5K, $4,500 we won that weekend. And it cost me 2 drums of methanol. And I think I used 1.5 tyres, something stupid like that. You know, that's back in 1996.
I do want to talk about in your circles, and it's probably going to be you, but I was going to say on the road, who's the biggest pest for pranks?
Pranks? No, it's all serious, mate. When we go, hey, no pranks, mate. we got road trip rules, mate. What goes on the road stays on the road. It's like you don't put your keys in the bowl. You put your phones in the bowl, your cameras in the bowl. You know, like. No photos, no nothing. Just everyone have a good time, enjoy. Yeah, there's I can't think of it too many. Just one story leads into another. That's why they call the speedways like SBS 6 billion stories, mate. Because there's about 6 billion to be told. You know, everyone's got one. Generally, the best time to be a fly on the wall is after a big meeting or something. A few bevies. Someone will spill something, and then it'll recall something else, and then before you know it, there's about 6 billion stories all come out just from one person opening their mouth. It's good fun.
Now, there's a really serious question I wanted to ask. Are you a cool granddad?
Yeah, I'm pretty cool. Yep, I do all the things I promised them I'd do to them. I fill them full of cordial, bad manners, and red frogs before I send them home. And they come out with me out of the block, and it's just motorbikes and animals and creeks and 30 acres of fun. So yeah, just bring them home knackered and dirty. They're good lads. Worst thing I did was I was actually the Queensland title. I think it was Cooper. He said, "Oh, you got to bring me a trophy home." You know, I said, "Yeah, no worries, mate." So we did it right. So brought the trophies home for him, and that just they think you get them at every meeting now. You can't explain. No, it was just the prize money, no trophies. Like, you didn't do so good, did you, Grandad? You know, start shit canning me. So, I just go back to the block and take the tag off one of the other ones and give them that. So I think I'm winning every week.
Be a huge list of people that have helped you in your career and probably continue to help you now. But what are some of the people in your career that have helped you? I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but that you kind of want to rattle off a few names and say thank you to.
Yeah, well, probably the biggest one for keeping me involved in it is Kevin Joy Waters. You know, Kevin Joy line marking I got on the bike, but when I was humming and hawing about it all and get going again, you know, like Kev actually swung with me accidentally on one of Cole Winds's bus trips up north because I wasn't supposed to go, and yeah, he was around, so he goes, yeah, I'll on sort of thing. And then that was it. He was on the back with me for a couple of years. A good little passenger, but like too hard for his own good, you know. Like he had ligaments in his ankle that would keep dislocating and falling out, but he just kept doing it. But just love Speedway. They're a great Speedway family. You know? That Suzuki's half of his, you know. Like we're doing it together. I wouldn't be able to do it myself anyway. So no, he's huge, and the whole involvement, not the financial side of it. You know, they're up for the sport and want to see us do well and thrive on it. You know, like they're a stop off every time I come up and down. Sort of just go a few hours out my way through Leighton and catch up with those guys. But yeah, they're huge. Obviously, your folks, they started off. Whereas I think Mum's been to 1 or 2 Speedway meetings. 2, I think, yeah. Dad was every week when he could, you know, he loves it. But yeah, Mum she just screams and carries on. So yeah, there's been a heap, you know, like from the start, Fleety and Clarkie, he was a big part in keeping me going as well. these eliminated frames. Unfortunately, the late Mr. Paul Clark. Yeah, mate, I could just keep going, you know, like Gary, like you talk about, you know, Gaz and Darren and like just Glenn, benchmark people that you just love racing against, and that's why you're doing it. So yeah, so it's all ingredients and makes you want to do it.
All I like to say to you out of all this, Bots, is thanks for sitting down with me, because, you know, I get to find out more about you and your career, and, you know, when this all gets published, so does the rest of Australia, or if not the world.
Yeah, for sure, mate. And I'm sorry it's a pretty boring one. I'm normally full of controversy or something for someone, aren't I? So, but I've been pretty well behaved tonight.
Yeah, it's been a school night, so that's all right.
No, it's been good having a yak, mate.